My dear friends, this is Dr. N.G. Prakash, Assistant Professor in the Department of History in front of you. Now, I am going to speak to you about non-Brahmin movement in princely Mysore state. In this article, I just want to concentrate on what are all the role played by the non-Brahmins in the Mysore state to get the facilities of the government and the society. I heartily welcome you once again for this session, please. My dear friends, 20th century witnessed the radical changes in the field of socio-economic and political fields of India that resulted in the rise of new movements like socio-religious movement, freedom movement, labor movement, peasant movement, and etc. Impact of British rule, Western education, exploitation by the British officers, role played by the socio-religious institutions and the leaders, etc. are the reasons for this. Deindustrialization left the government jobs as the only alternative for the jobless craftsmen of this Indian society. Being leading and educated caste, Brahmins occupied all the posts and lead their life happily in India. Thus, the non-Brahmins organized themselves with a view to educate their young men and secure them jobs. It is in this backdrop, non-Brahmin movement rose up its head in Mysore state. In this connection, my present speech will discuss the same issue here elaborately. My dear friends, just see the beginning of this controversy, Brahmins and non-Brahmins, like that. See, basically Hindu society is based on the Varnashrama Dharma. According to Purusha Sukta, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, the four Varnas born from the head, shoulders, thighs and the foot of the Lord Brahma. Except the Brahmins, all others are educationally backward till recent years. Educated Brahmin community had monopolized all the government jobs. Brahmins were at the forefront socially and politically also. Brahmins were educationally more advanced in the Madras Presidency than the Mysore state. During early Diwan's period, more number of Brahmins from Madras Presidency were appointed in the Mysore government service at all levels. This led to the dissatisfaction among the Brahmins of the native state called Mysore. As a result, the Mysore Brahmins began to demand more jobs for the native Mysore Brahmins. Thus began the agitation like Mysore for Mysoreans. This agitation was Mysore Brahmins versus the Madras Brahmins. The earliest sparks of the backward class grievances were evidenced in 1890s when the Mysore census report was published. In this background, the Veerashaiva Mahasabha, Lingayat Vidyavartaka Sangha were established. At the same time, Karnataka Lingayat Education Society founded at Belgaum. Its aim was to help Veerashaivas to seek higher education. Guru Siddhappa and Arthal Rudregowda were its leaders. Later, Murugamata founded a hostel for the Lingayat students at Dharwad to come forward. The Justice Party of Madras had its impact on Ballari and Dakshina Kannada districts of Karnataka also. The Mogaviras and the Bunds had organized their caste associations in the coastal of Karnataka. The Bunds even started a hostel for the advancement of their students in Mangalore region. Similarly, Maratha Vidyavardhaka Sangha was started at Dharwad and Belgaum in 1893. The Bombay Karnataka area was influenced by the thoughts of Mahatma Phule, who founded the Satya Shodhaka Samaja to uphold the principle of casteless society. He was supported by Sahu Maharaj of Kolhapur, who was highly respected by the Karnataka and all over India. Till 1910, there were only 3 colleges in the Mysore state. This was the main cause for the educational backwardness of the people of Mysore state. During Diwan V.P. Madhavrau's period, Vakkaligas and Lingais and other communities received more and more encouragement to start hostels and schools for their own communities. Rao Bahadur Gubbi Totatappa, Jaideva and other community hostels came into being in Mysore state. Beside these community hostels, other public hostels also established in all over the Mysore state. Later, establishment of the Mysore University by Rajeshri Krishnaraja Vadiyar IV and his able Diwan Sir M. Vishweshwaraya gave a great encouragement to the development of educational facilities for all the communities of this Mysore state. M. Basvaya, a member of the Legislative Council, took up the leadership of the backward classes movement by demanding scholarships and jobs for the backward class people of Mysore state. But there was no good response from the Diwan at that period. However, the Yuvaraja Narasimharaja Vadiyar and Maharaja Nalvadi Krishnaraja Vadiyar had sympathy towards the backward classes in Mysore state. During 1917, backward class movement meeting held at Bangalore, Annaswamy Mudaliar, the leader of Madras backward class movement, presided over this session. There were 3,000 people who belonged to 30 different backward communities attended this function. M. Basvaya, M. Subbaya and H. Chennaya bitterly opposed the monopoly of the Brahmins over the local bodies, factories and all other sectors of the job. And the people demanded the equal communal representation in all these fields for all the communities. Under these conditions, Brahmanetara Parishad was commenced in Mysore state. In the meanwhile, by the initiative of Shri Siddhappa Kambali, Brahmanetara Parishad established at Hubli, in which all non-Brahmin groups including Muslims, Jains, Marathas joined here. Its first conference was held at Hubli. It was presided over by Tyagaraja Chetty, who was the Justice Party member of the Madras state. And this was inaugurated by Sahu Maharaj of Kolhapur. A Marathi magazine called Rashtraveera came to be launched from Belgaum to support this cause. With its inspiration, Prajamitra Mandali was also established in Mysore state. Rao Sahib H. Chennaya was its president. M. Basvaya was the secretary. D. Banmaya M. Subbaiah and Abbas Khan were the executive members of this Praja Mitra Mandali of Mysore state. Within a week, the Praja Mitra Mandali pointed out that Brahmins had monopoly in government service and demanded for fair treatment of all other communities through opening new schools, hostels, by providing different types of scholarships to the citizens. Under these conditions, the Brahmins united and they meet the Mysore king and forced to vanish the demands of non-Brahmins here and pressurized the Mysore king to give appointment to the Brahmins because they are very intelligent and know the administration very well. So by saying like this, they demanded the Mysore king and the Mysore government to give the jobs for the Brahmins. But the Mysore king set aside the demand of the Brahmins by quoting, "Non-Brahmins are also my citizens." This is very important for me. The Mysore king set aside the demand of the Brahmins by quoting, "Non-Brahmins are also my citizens." And this was the great victory of the non-Brahmins movement of the Mysore state. Mysore government took some steps to assure higher posts and very good education for the backward classes. Kantirva Narasimha Rajavadiyar, the crown prince and the king encouraged this attitude. Now the agitation took a new turn and it became Brahmins versus non-Brahmins movement in Mysore state. Appointment of Justice Leslie Miller Committee is a very important event to solve the issue. Leslie Miller was the justice of the Mysore State High Court. Under these conditions, the king Nalvadi Krishna Rajavadiyar appointed a Miller Committee to look into the grievances. Miller was the president of this committee. Shrikanta Iyer, Ranga Iyengar, Muthanna, H. Channaya, M. Basvaya, Ghulam Ahmad Kalami were the members of this Justice Miller Committee. The responsibilities of the Justice Miller Committee are, number one, this Justice Miller Committee had to frame the rules for the appointment for everyone in the Mysore state. Second one, professional education for the backward class people. Third one, backward class representation to the government bodies, etc. and etc. This Justice Miller Committee had to give answer, had to give recommendations for all these aims and purposes, responsibilities of the given. On the basis of this committee's report, so these are all the implementations were taking place in Mysore. Miller Committee's report is like this. Number one, 50% of the posts were to be given to the backward classes for the period of next 7 years. Second one, fees were abolished for the scheduled caste and other communities up to the middle school level. Scholarships and free books were extended to backward classes. Admission to the Panchamas in government and aided schools become mandatory. No grants to the orthodox schools that rejected the admissions to the Panchamas in the Mysore state, and these are all the measures were strictly adopted in Mysore state. Now, the Brahmins stand for the merit system, whereas the non-Brahmins stood for the reservation system for the appointment process. Meanwhile, Diwan Vishweshwaraya selected the 6 Brahmins for the post of assistant commissioners on the basis of the merit system. But Maharaja rejected this appointment of the Diwan. In protest against the decision of the Maharaja, Diwan Vishveshwaraya gave resignation to his job. The first non-Brahmin Diwan, Kantaraj Aras, implemented the Miller Committee report with reformative zeal in the Mysore state, and it was he adopted the reservation system for the upliftment of the non-Brahmins and all other community people of the society. By 1921, 25% of the posts were given to the backward classes, and by 1956, the percentage was raised to 42. Out of 8 posts of amaldars, 6 were given to the backward classes and 2 were given to the Brahmins. Maximum benefits were extended to the backward classes in education and the services. Later, Diwan Mirza Ismail appointed backward classes candidates to 75% of the vacancies in the early period, but later 68% of the vacancies in the later period was given to the men. Thus, he reduced the percentage of the Brahmins in the government services, and at the same time he gave more and more opportunities for the non-Brahmins and other community people to come forward for the government service and government sector. Mysore state is one of the leading princely states of the British India. Mysore state adopted progressive reforms even before the British government planned it. Mysore is the first state which sowed the seeds of democracy in all the princely states of this India and gave the franchise rights to the people. In case of backward class movement and non-Brahmin movements, Mysore kings liberally encouraged it. So, there was no much violence in Karnataka state regarding these issues. My dear participants and dear friends, this is all about my presentation. If you have any queries, and please let me clarify. Thank you one and all.